Hi there. I'm giving you this video podcast from the middle of a lake of fire. It's hot. So why am I giving you this video podcast from the middle of a lake of fire? Well, like so many reporters in the United States, at the request of the McCain campaign, I'm giving Sarah Palin the respect and deference to which she is due. You see, Sarah Palin thinks that people like me belong in a lake of fire. You may think that's an exaggeration, but listen to Sarah Palin's own words. Listen to the Republican Party platform, which declares that politicians have the right to apply their religious values in public policy. Well, Sarah Palin's religious values lead her to talk about using the power of government to enact what she calls the will of God, the task of God, or the plan of God, God's plan, as her church says, for Wasilla, for Alaska, and for the entire world. That's the Wasilla Assemblies of God Church. Now, a lot of people who are trying to cover up for Sarah Palin will say that Sarah Palin doesn't go to the Wasilla Assemblies of God Church anymore, that she goes to the Wasilla Bible Church, which has its own problems. But actually, Sarah Palin was most recently at the Wasilla Assemblies of God Church in June 2008, where she gave a speech saying that the Iraq War is a divine task of God that's according to God's plan. The war is. And also a fossil fuel pipeline in Alaska, Sarah Palin says, is the will of God. So, what is this will of God, this task of God? What is the God's plan that Sarah Palin keeps on talking about? When Sarah Palin sat down to talk with Charles Gibson from ABC News, she referred to it again. She said, there's a plan for America. It's a plan from God. Well, what is that plan from God? Actually, the church that Sarah Palin has gone to for a long, long time, the Wasilla Assemblies of God, has a very specific idea about what that plan from God is. And that plan, fundamentally, ultimately, leads to this lake of fire. Here's what the Wasilla Assemblies of God has to say about their belief in God's plan. Quote, "A final judgment will take place for those who have rejected Christ. They will be judged for their sin and consigned to eternal punishment in a punishing lake of fire." Unquote. There's more. You see, the Assemblies of God, they all agree to these official position papers. That's how they get to be calling themselves Assemblies of God churches. And back when Sarah Palin was a teenager and affiliated with the Assemblies of God Church, they passed through a committee to study eternal punishment. Yes, that was the actual name of the committee. A committee to study eternal punishment. They wrote an official position paper on eternal punishment. And here's what they said, quote, "Those who share Satan's punishment are further referred to as the wicked. This is a general term for all who are actively evil and worthless. They include the cowardly because of lack of faith, the unbelieving, the vile, the disgusting, detestable, murderers, sexually immoral, those who practice magic arts, those who use enchantments, harmful drugs, idolaters, and all liars." Unquote. See, there you have it. Sarah Palin's church, the church she's gone to for years and has recently gone to, says that non-Christians and homosexuals are morally equivalent to murderers. Murderers. And she says, the church says that we, those of us who are non-Christians or homosexuals, will share Satan's punishment. What is that? They say further, quote, "This fire is not only to be eternal, but is said to be of such a nature that it can never be quenched. This clearly indicates that there can be no possible end to the fire or the punishment. The punishment is as eternal as the fire. If the fire brought an annihilation of the wicked, there would be no reason for the fire being eternal." See, the purpose of that lake of fire is to punish non-Christians and homosexuals, among others, us worthless non-Christians, according to Sarah Palin's church. Another quote from that official position paper from that Committee on Eternal Punishment from the Assemblies of God, Sarah Palin's church. Quote, "The punishment will be as eternal as the eternal life. This leaves no room for any later restoration of the wicked. None of these passages indicates any promise of rehabilitation or restoration once the final judgment is pronounced. No sanctifying agent is revealed in connection with the lake of fire or Gehenna. It is looked at as punitive, not purifying. There will be no second chance." Unquote. So, the characteristics of this lake of fire are to be that it will go on forever, that it will burn the people in it, but the people who are in it will not be destroyed by that burning. They will be subjected to that burning as a torment, as a punishment, as a kind of torture, eternally. They will never be able to escape from that fire. And the purpose of that fire is not metaphorical, according to the Assemblies of God. This isn't some kind of inner purification, some kind of symbol of something else. They take this very literally to mean that it's a punishment. The people who are thrown into that lake of fire will never have the chance to get out. And they also say, the Assemblies of God, in their official position paper on this, that Jesus will be watching this. He'll be watching the torment of all these people who are thrown into the lake of fire to burn forever and ever, and Jesus will enjoy it. That is what Sarah Palin comes from. And that is what Sarah Palin's church says the plan of God is. So when Sarah Palin gets up in front of that Assemblies of God church in Wasilla and says that she, as governor of Alaska, is going to be working for the plan of God, she's using her power for that, and when she says as a vice presidential candidate that she believes that there's a plan for America, in reference to this whole language she's been using about God's will, when she says that to Charles Gibson, this is what she's talking about. She's talking about a plan that her church has devised, and it ends up throwing non-Christians and homosexuals into eternal torture, calling us worthless. Worthless.